So one rule that seems to have showed up in competitive video games is that whenever there's a meta in a game, it's never going to apply to everybody. And I think that's something that everyone just kind of has to get used to. Some of the best players will just know how to counter certain characters, and some of the weaker players might not know that strategy, or just might not be able to synergize quite as well with certain characters. And that's where the metas change ELO by ELO. And today I want to talk to you guys about 5 heroes that are strong in low ELO that maybe aren't the best in high ELO. Now, of course, they can still be played in higher ELO if you want to pick them up right there. They are perfectly viable, but if you just want to pick up and play a certain character, these are 5 that will do generally a lot better the lower ELO you get. And with that all said, let's get started. So the first character I wanted to bring up is one that's been extremely strong in Overwatch for the past 100 days or so, and has actually been at the top of both the high and low ELO charts, but now is just at the top of the low ELO, and that is Junkrat. Now, what kind of happened to him that made so that he's a lot less good in higher ELO? And I'm not saying that he's bad. He's still like the top 6 or 7 best DPS, but he's not nearly as good as he is in low ELO. And why is that? Well, I think it's because it's a lot harder to counter Junkrat in lower ELOs, especially with his new changes. When you're playing against Junkrat in lower ELOs, it's kind of hard to deal with his spam. He just shoots it out, does a truckload of damage, and even though he can't spam, I guess, quite as easily to as many people because his shift was nerfed in the radius, he still can generally get out all the damage that he really needs to. And the enemies are probably going to be playing a shield tank that Junkrat can break through semi-easily. However, if you look at higher ELOs, it's not really the same case anymore. What it used to be is that in spam comp, Junkrat could be protected by the Mercy, so if he got dived, he could be rezzed. The Orisa was helping out as well, and he had so much AoE with his shift that he could just kind of live no matter what. But now that he's nerfed a little bit, and now that Mercy's nerfed, now that spam comp's kind of out of there, Junkrat can't really rely on the same things anymore in higher ELOs. He still does do a decent amount of damage, but if he gets dived, he's just kind of dead now, and that's kind of what's been going on. And a lot of higher ELO games, people are picking up D.Va, people pick up Winston, maybe even a Zarya to help those guys out, triple tank, quadra tank, that can always work. You get on the enemy backline, you get on that Junkrat, and you take him out. And that's where I feel like he's maybe not the best in higher ELO, because people are more coordinated. They're more willing to try out different comps, and especially they're more diverse in their tanks, I'm going to say, and they can play a lot more of the dive tanks, which generally do quite a bit better against Junkrat. And I guess that's why he's not quite as good in higher ELO. But on the other coin, yeah, he can just wreck house still in low ELO. Even though he might not be quite as strong as he was, obviously the spam potential on this character, the DPS on this character, and I guess the fact that you don't have to be extremely skilled to play this guy at least an okay level, all come together in a good reason to pick him up when you just kind of need to in a lower ELO game. Next, we have Reinhardt, who is a completely different character. I mean, he's been out of the meta for quite a while, and I think we can honestly, for a lot of the part, blame Junkrat, honestly, in the spam meta. Reinhardt just couldn't play with the spam, and he couldn't deal with all the Junkrat damage, all the Orisa damage, and the Roadhog helping him out. The shield would just break too fast, and Reinhardt really had no good way to get in without being countered. But again, now since that spam meta is kind of out of the way, you can pick up Reinhardt a little bit more. And even in higher ELO, he is a bit more playable, and some people are picking him up, but I feel like where he has especially just exploded in popularity and exploded in win rate is in lower ELO. Now that people aren't playing as much spam, you can pick up this character, walk straight forward like you used to be able to do, straight into the enemy team, and if you're in bronze, silver, or gold, if your teammates are actually following you, you can single-handedly give them space and create an opening for your team to hopefully get damage on the enemies and hopefully win that team fight. And that's just kind of how it's going to go with Reinhardt. On higher ELOs, I think, again, a lot of the times you can be dived as Reinhardt, you can be spammed a little bit more as Reinhardt, and it can just be kind of harder to get in there. And I think that's why a lot less people are picking him, and more people are picking, Winston, D.Va, even Orisa still. But on lower ELOs, when people can't really counter you quite as much, Reinhardt can pop off. And I think another important thing to say is that Reinhardt doesn't really have to aim that much. His ultimate is extremely powerful by itself, so you can win a team fight by yourself in lower ELO, which doesn't always work at higher ELO. And he can get picks, which are all extremely important things in this rank, because a lot of the times people are honestly in the wrong positioning. And if you can catch him out as Reinhardt, you can win that team fight for yourself. And I think that's, again, another reason why Reinhardt is just a good pick in lower ELO, but maybe not the best at higher ranks. Lucio is someone that is honestly kind of weird, because I expected him to be much better at higher ELO, because Lucio generally works great with dive comps. And I think whenever, I'm looking at Lucio, seeing what he can do, seeing how you play him, I think, you play this guy with 2 or 3 tanks, you dive in, you get kills, and you just whop the enemy team. And generally, dive comp does work better in higher elo because you need a lot of flankers. You need a lot of people with a lot of mechanical skill that can't just always rely on their ultimates. But that's, again, not what's been happening with Lucio. While he has, again, similarly to everybody on this list, moved up the tier list a little bit because the spam meta's away, he's still not really doing way too much in high elo. I mean, some people pick him up in the King of the Hill, but that's about it. But when you get down to lower ranks, he's actually chosen one of the highest percentages of all the support, and as well, he has some of the highest win rates, and I think it's because his overall consistency. Sure, the speed boost is an extremely important thing to use, especially when you get better at the game. You kind of have to use it and use it correctly. Otherwise, the healing is probably going to be more important for yourself. But when you're playing in low elo, where oftentimes you have 3, sometimes even 4 DPS, having the consistent healing to all of them at the same time with your healing aura, speeding that up, and ulting your teammates in with that aura and with everything, I think that by itself is a reason to pick up this character, I guess, in a sense. While I would have personally thought that more coordination from the higher ranked players would have been more important, obviously that's not really how it is. And I think overall, having Lucio as just a general nice healer that can keep everybody up, and especially since there's so much less damage going on in lower ranks because less people are hitting bullets, I think Lucio does just become a stronger pick and does become a more consistent pick and does become a pick that can win you a team fight by himself, which doesn't always happen in higher ranks. And I guess that's why he's pretty good in lower elos. So Bastion is a really weird pick because if you look at him from a higher elo standpoint with, Grandmaster, Master, Diamond, or whatever, you pretty much only see him on Junkertown on offense. Pirate ship, hunkering up, going in for the win. That's kind of meta right now, and I think it will be pretty much forever unless it's nerfed or changed or something because it's hard to deal with no matter what rank you're at. People at higher ranks, though, are kind of figuring it out, and he is becoming a little bit weaker there, so I guess there's that. And as well, I'm going to say, if you're trying to play Bastion in any other map, you don't really see it that much in higher elos. He just kind of doesn't show up. But if you look at Bastion at the lower ranks, he can actually deal a ton of work. The thing that makes Bastion so easy to play against is teamwork. If you can get a diva with a flanker, you can kill the Bastion. Or if you can get even something like a Pharah, Mercy, healing each other up, you can probably kill the Bastion. But once you get to the lower ranks, a lot of times, while people will eventually focus on the Bastion, they don't initially kill him that much, and that's nice for you as a Bastion player. I think you can live longer, you can get more damage out, and the self-heal / I guess self-protection from your passive and from your heal is an important thing to keeping yourself alive and making so that you last long enough to get through that team fight and win your team the game in that way. I think it's just harder for people to kill you as Bastion in lower elos, and harder for people to play with teamwork to finish you off. And also, there aren't way too many jank picks in lower elos. You don't see super good Hanzos that can one-shot scatter you as much, and you don't see super good Widows that can two-shot you. Those just don't really exist that much. And without those picks, Bastion can kind of wreak havoc. Now, I'm not going to say he's the best character because still he doesn't have the highest win rates, but he definitely is a lot more playable than when you try to play him after you've ranked up quite a bit. And the final character right here in this list is Mercy. Mercy obviously has had some huge nerfs, but she still, for the most part, seems like a somewhat playable character. You can go for her on defense if you want to. She does have a half-decent ult that lasts for a while, that can heal, that can damage boost. The res is still an important mechanic on defense because it still erases one mistake, and overall, she's still a strong character with her regular kit. It's just her ultimate that isn't that strong about her anymore. And when you look at it, I think it kind of shows the differences between the elos and between what was so important. On higher ranks, you kind of needed to have an extremely strong, hard to counter ultimate with Mercy because her regular kit was okay, you could get that, healing out, but didn't have anything special like Zenyatta or Ana or Moira or anything like that. She was just strong because when you had her ultimate, if your teammates died, you could res them straight up, no problem. And that was about it. And no matter what rank you're at, it was almost impossible to counter. Of course, that was even better in lower ranks, but at high ranks, that was just great. But now that her ultimate isn't that great, it's kind of hard to argue to pick her, especially on offense. Now on defense, you can argue to pick her, you can get that res still, and that will be important. But on offense, you can't really get the res, and her ultimate probably isn't going to win you a team fight. And would you rather have Mercy healing or Moira with Moira's ultimate? I think it's kind of easy to see in that sense why a lot of people are kind of going away from Mercy. However, when you look at lower elos, again, bronze, silver, gold, whatever, Mercy is actually played a ton still, and Mercy actually has a very high win rate, and I think she always will, kind of no matter what happens. With the res mechanic, It's so powerful, and normally I guess when you're playing Mercy on offense in a higher ranked game, you can probably be picked off when you're rezzing somebody. However, if you're playing at a lower ranked game, there's actually a higher chance that your rezzes on offense will get through, and I think that by itself might be the changing point between higher and lower ELOs with Mercy. You can get a lot more risky plays and risky rezzes off with this character, and as well, her consistent healing, consistent ultimate, and consistent damage boost I think is a lot more important at lower ELOs, where people can't always, hit everything as Ana, where people can't always hit all the shots as Zenyatta. Being able to consistently get everything as Mercy, I think has more power in the lower ELO you get, while I guess when you get to higher, it's just not quite as important or quite as powerful. But with that said, again, when you are in those lower ranks, Mercy will be a good pick. And I guess if you want to pick up a support and want to keep playing a support that you don't have to put too much effort into, Mercy's still probably the best pick in this rank. But I guess if you want to try to get used to getting ready to rank up and play supports at higher ranks, maybe picking up Moira, Zenyatta, or Ana might be a better pick for you. But in all honesty, all of them still work, and we're still seeing a decent amount of top 500 Mercy, so there's still the chance to play her for yourself. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the 5 heroes that I personally believe are stronger in lower ELO than in higher ELO. But as always, you can play these characters in whatever rank you want to. It honestly doesn't matter way too much. Mostly just matters when you're trying to fill a hero. These characters will probably be a little bit better than trying to pick up any other character. With all that said, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you felt like I missed a certain character, make sure to leave that down in the comment section down below. Leave a like if you want to see more top 5 lists like this in the future, or press the subscribe or the notification button. But anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.